everybody, it's Jane from Norman S. Wright. In this week's video, I'm going to explain the difference between a blow-through and a draw-through fan configuration. So let's get started. Air handlers and other equipment with fans can have a draw-through or blow-through configuration. So let's look at what this means. In an air handler, you have a heating coil, a cooling coil, and a fan. If the fan is after the coils, it's called a draw-through arrangement because the air is drawn through the coils. And if it's before the coils, it's a blow-through arrangement because the air is blown through the coils. Let's move this up a little and look at this. So I'm going to start by just looking at a fan in ductwork or in a cabinet and mounted on a discharge panel. This side is the low pressure side, and over here on the discharge side of the fan is the high pressure side. The air is drawn fairly evenly into the fan inlet on this side. But the airflow out of discharge looks like this, with a higher velocity up here where the air is moving out of the fan, and eventually the airflow profile will spread out to fill the ductwork. Let's bring the top back on now and move these over a little bit to make some room for me to write. So when you look at how the air is moving, if you need a more even flow, you want to use a draw-through configuration. So if there's a water coil over here, air is being pulled evenly over the coil. This is better for heat transfer from the coil to the airstream, and you get a fairly even temperature profile. You also have a lower pressure drop across the coils if the air velocity is evenly spread across the coil face. Now let's look what happens if you put the water coil in a blow-through configuration. Since the air is leaving the fan at the top of the ductwork, it needs time to spread out to get good coverage over the water coil, so you may need to put the coil farther away from the fan to allow the airflow to become more uniform. This adds length to the unit, which adds cost and takes up space. Let me make a little bit of room. If the coil is too close to the discharge of the fan, you could have too much face velocity in the area of the water coil that the air is passing through, and that can reduce the capacity of your coil because you're underutilizing the other areas of the coil. It can also cause moisture or condensate blow-off. This is when water droplets are blown off the coil into the airstream, and you don't want this to happen. For these reasons, draw-through is the most common arrangement for air handlers. Another thing to consider in a draw-through arrangement is the motor adds heat to the airstream just as it's entering the ductwork. This can add 2 to 3 degrees to the airstream. And you may need to compensate for this by having the air leave the coils a little bit cooler. The fan will also add heat to the airstream in a blow-through arrangement, but it'll actually warm up the air before it gets to the cooling coil, so you don't have to worry about it going to the space, but you will have to account for a higher entering air temperature on your coils. So that's the difference between blow-through and draw-through configurations. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, put them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.